Red 5 standing by. But actually, it's Black 5 standing by, because I'm, wait,
Your
no, that doesn't make
locomotive
sense. The
doesn't
X-Wings weren't even red. They were like gray. So it was like Gray 5 standing by.
Well, they were designated by team that were colors, so it was like red was the color, but the actual X-Wing is gray, but it had red stripes. I mean,
right,
I
and
don't
then
know,
the
man.
Y-Wings were like yellow. Weren't they yellow
They were
designations?
yellow in color, but I thought they were blue.
Were they blue designations? Man.
It's been a minute since I've seen Star Wars.
All right, well, Red 5 standing by, because, I got the red windows. So today we're back pretty much where we left off. We're at the coal mine. We're going to go down and basically stock up the coal mine a little bit more. We want to put as much coal in here as possible, just because then we can, have that fuel source for all the new coal engines we have. So we did stock it up a little bit last time. We've got some rails down at the smelters, so we're going to go down to the smelter, down the 10%. Hopefully that works.
Spicy.
And then we're going to, when we get to the smelter, we're going to cut the train, load up half of it with rails, take the other half, load it up with beams, bring it all back, get more coal. Pretty, logistical run today. Just kind of getting that fuel supply up. And then we'll have to, at some point in time, put a coaling tower next to our roundhouse, Knights of the Round Table area. And, get that stocked up as well. Pretty much just created a whole new industry by needing coal fuel. Although to be honest, we've never really supplied any of the wood cutting places with wood fuel yet, although the one at our round table is getting low, so we might have to supply that at some point. Maybe we'll have to do an episode where we just do fuel runs and supply all the fuel needs.
And somebody did do the math apparently, and the amount of coal in the Tweed Seas tender, it's apparently 6,000 coal units.
6,000?
Yeah, and apparently you could you don't actually have to refill the tender for something like almost 1,000 hours of gameplay, I think, is what somebody said. So we're continuing on that trend of we don't really need to deal anything with these facilities.
6,000 coal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big tender.
But the coaling tower, I thought it only held like 200 or something. So you wouldn't even...
Oh, I don't know if it's like units like that, because those are in tons or something.
Right.
But
so
fire units are different than mass units.
Right. Okay. I was just going to say, like, if that was 6,000, can you imagine we'd never need coal. We'd never be able to fill it.
I'm thinking, my guess is that it's 6,000 kilograms of coal.
Right.
Maybe, which would be
we have like a fuel supply depot at the smelter for wood, and I guess that's because we have the Class 48 living at the smelter, so it needs a fuel supply without coming all the way back to the main maintenance shed. Do we have a fuel supply here at the coal mine? I think we do too, right? We have another one here.
I think we do as well. Yeah, it's the most remote location theoretically on the railroad. So.
Right, and we don't need a coal supply there because it can supply its own coal.
It is the coal supply, yes.
And I guess we don't really need a coal supply at the smelter because all the engines that are coal burning that go to the smelter are just going to be there temporarily and leave, so that'll be fine. Yeah, I think we'll be good. We'll have to supply all the wood. And then, is that it for a wood supply? Just one at the main, one at the smelter, and one here, right? 3 of them? I think that's right.
I think that's all we've built, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's any other ones.
Yeah, we'll have to do an episode where we just bring a couple cars of wood
supply
to those
all the
places.
Things.
Yeah.
Get the logistics of the railroad done, because, I mean, that's definitely a thing that the railroad had to deal with. You
bring a coal car
fuel.
and just...
Yeah.
How would you... Okay, so if you have... I know we've talked about it a little bit before, but you have a coaling tower, right? Like the towers they've got here. Would they just have, like, literally, like, how this one has it, an elevator that lifts the coal up to the top of the tower, and it just...
That's a fancy thing for a bigger railroad location. Most of the locations like this and railroads online, which are pretty small, all they would have would be a dock where you pay a bunch of dudes with shovels to shovel from the car to the dock, and then from the dock to a tender.
Wow.
So very manual labor, very intensive. But that's all it would have been.
If you're a coal dock operator, you're just like, what, sitting there all day until someone comes along and says, hey man, I need coal for my choo-choo? Like, is that...
You would be some sort of other B&B, bridge and building employee, probably on the railroad. So you'd have other tasks, but one of your tasks would be to deal with the coal of the locomotives, because they really did try and make those jobs make sense. Like, there was a job back in the day where one of the responsibilities was you owned the water towers in a certain region.
Right.
And so you'd have, like, it would be a dude on a bicycle back in the early days, or later had a hand car or speeder or something, and he would go down the railroad.
Are you on full brake right now, by the way?
I'm on mostly full brake because I'm trying not to put flat spots on.
I would go.
I'm seeing how much brake I can have.
Oh, I would go full brake. We are getting spicy fast back here.
I'm at 98% brake because I don't know. I mean, I guess we could try. I'm gonna go full brake. I'm on full brake.
All right, I'm gonna.
And God,
I'm gonna
that looks wrong.
Tag some extra cars back here.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Fun fact: if you start sliding wheels, you have much less braking power.
Man, it is impossible to get out of the front of the climax. I just fell off the train, so good luck. Your back car is tied. The climax is 100% tied, but I can't like.
All right, I am now working against brakes in reverse.
No, it looks. It actually looks. It looks like we're slowing down. You're onto the lower grade section there. You should be okay. Yeah, I'm trying to climb through the front of the climax cab basically to get onto the car, and it keeps yeeting me backwards into the. Anyway, at least I got one car tied, and the climax is fully tied, so we'll be.
It's fine.
We'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely died there. That was the day that
it happens.
You guys got down to the bottom of the railroad, and you realized you were missing a brakeman or two, and that was just.
It happens. That's the thing that happens.
And then you just change the schedule and be like, oh no, he wasn't on shift today. I don't know what happened. It was just,
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, that's terrible.
It was a gig on the railroad. Like, people had to go take care of all those different facilities. So, like, one guy, you'd own the 3 water towers, out of town or whatever. Right. And so you'd go and you'd have to go fire up the stationary steam engine that was the pump to bring the water to the tower when it was needed, whatever. And then you'd help the crews service their engine or whatever. And that was your responsibility. So one of your responsibilities might be you're also the coal guy. So when you hear the whistle, okay, time to go to work. Go get the coal and go shovel into the tent. Like, literally, you and maybe
Wouldn't
it's just
that take like good 30-40 minutes to fill a tender with coal?
Oh God, shovel by shovel, dude! It takes like 30 minutes to fill 491's tender with our backhoe.
Oh God.
Like, it would just be a nightmare if you had to like completely fill a tender by yourself with a shovel. That's not fun. But,
New video idea for Heist at the Railroad Museum. I completely filled a tender with nothing but a shovel. One of those toy, like, kiddie plastic shovels, you get at Walmart.
That sounds like way too much effort.
Yeah, and then just time-lapse the whole thing. And then, people will watch you shovel with, like, this tiny plastic shovel for 7 hours. It'd be great.
No thanks.
You sure? I'm just full of all the great ideas.
What's your workout routine? Well, it's a little strange, and it involves getting black lung in the process. It's fine.
So I actually noticed something interesting. I was watching a documentary on coal mining just because, that's where I ended up.
Things that are interesting. Yeah,
I ended up on a coal mining, and with modern coal mining, it seems like they spray water onto the coal, like as they're mining it to keep the dust down, which makes a lot of sense. But like in an engine with a tender, do you guys do that at all? Do you your coal pile's obviously outside, so it gets rained on, right? But like,
right.
Do you guys actually water your tenders at all to keep the dust down, or do you not care? Does it matter?
So there's a couple little things to unpack with it. For like, while you're going around the railroad, we don't really tend to, although some firemen prefer to have wet coal. Fun fact. This is a weird little bit of science.
We talked about that. The steam explosions breaking coal apart.
Yes, precisely. So some folks like to do that because it makes their coal fire like spread out a little bit more easily. But if it's super wet, it's kind of ridiculous. But you don't really need to actually wet down the whole tender for the sake of dust. I mean, you're usually going forward and the dust gets carried back, and your passengers get it instead.
So your passengers just get black lung, but not you.
But they're in a
paying
passenger car, and it's 1905.
Yeah,
it's 1905, and we die like men. So anyway,
it's fair. Yeah.
The amount of dust that the tender pile actually makes is not really that much. When you're loading it, it does generate a lot of dust, but we don't wet the coal down for that. The one thing that we do end up wetting the coal down with sometimes is if the tender is full of a lot of fine coal, really small pieces of coal, we will wash the coal under the water tower, and we'll actually wash out the tender and try and get all of the small pieces out and keep all the big lumps. So you put the 2 shovels.
Wait, so like you're saying when the tender's empty, you'll wash it out?
No, when the tender's still full with like a bunch of coal in it, you'll block the exit so that only water and small pieces of coal can get out. And then you'll like just douse the coal in water to try and get all the small bits out. because
What do you do with all that excess coal? Just dump it on the ground and
it just goes on the ground and becomes ballast.
Oh,
You seen the ballast that the railroads used?
it's all like full of coal dust and everything else. Like it's
A lot of narrow gauge railroads used pretty much like exclusively cinders and ash. For the smaller railroads are the ones that had less money, and locations that didn't really need really robust ballast.
Right.
That was pretty common. But a lot of places on the railroad had like pretty crazy engineered ballast to them too. There's actually a neat thing with the Denver and Rio Grande Western where there was a time later in the railroad's history where the highway department came along and wanted to run a highway and needed to relocate the railroad in order to make the highway. And the railroad said, well, we're not going to do it unless you take care of the track for us. So the highway guys came, took the track out, put their highway in, and realigned the track for them. And it was the nicest track on all the railroad because someone who dealt with cars and roadways made it perfectly smooth and level. Perfectly ballasted. But the less fortunate roads, definitely ash, coal, cinders, whatever, whatever fell off the side. There you go.
So, I guess this is, it's funny. Every time I ask you questions, people are always like, I swear to God, if Heist answers with, it depends one more time.
Yeah, there's your drinking game,
but
everyone.
So, like, realistically, your ballast is obviously going to be based on where you have the railroad. Like, if you have a railroad in the middle of a desert somewhere that's susceptible to windstorms, there's a high probability your ballast is going to blow away over time. And you'll just have to come back and, like, get it again and all that. I'm just going to leave, I'm just going to leave the helper on the main because we're going to be coming right back here.
Sure, that sounds good.
It's going to go back up in reverse because that's just how it is. But, we'll flip it around again.
That's life. It's fine.
But yeah, like if you have a ballast, realistically, if you build a ballast perfectly for weather conditions, it'll still wear away over time with wind, rain, whatever, right? Like you'll have to eventually come back and...
You always have to come back and things vibrate, things get knocked out loose. Like
right.
This is why maintenance away is a thing. You bring guys in and you retamp the ballast because you need to hard pack. Like the whole purpose behind real ballast is to hard pack the jagged points of the ballast. You don't want smooth rock. You want jaggedy, pointy rock. So like river rock makes for awful ballast and explains why a lot of alignments that ran along rivers, see the Durango and Silverton for a long time, had really bad track, was because they used what they had, and river rock doesn't hold because it's smooth and has eroded. So you're trying to jam these angular pieces of rock together underneath the ties and around the ties, underneath the rail specifically. You don't want a huge pile of ballast under the center of the tie, because then when the train goes over, it tries to break the tie in half. So you really need a dense packed pile under the one rail, the other rail, little bit lighter in the center, still pretty much touching, but not as densely packed. And so as trains go over, as rail shifts, as a train goes down the track, it's actually pushing the rail out ahead of it like it's a piece of bread dough and it's a bread roller. But you're talking about a giant roller that is a locomotive and a very stiff thing that's not dough. But that's actually what the train does, is it's pushing that rail out ahead of it. So if you have trains going the same direction on the same piece of track over and over and over, like a circle, it'll actually push the rail down the alignment. And so as that does, the ballast moves, it washes away, it gets blown by wind, whatever it is.
Do you guys have a measurable difference in that? Like, will your switches and stuff will slowly shift position? Like,
oh god, yes.
Your whole circle just spins. Eventually, the museum has it where the circle is not lined up anymore. Like,
we had some issue. I can't remember what it was because it was right before I started full time at the museum again. But they were only able to run clockwise all summer for summer ops, and then they had run Polar Express clockwise, and like most of the operations had been clockwise the past year. And so when we were doing the track work, the anchors that are supposed to be up against the ties had moved an inch and a half. So all of the rail on the entire railroad had shifted clockwise almost an inch and a half. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, we're a museum. Like, why is it like this? And our track foreman, who a lot of the things I'm just telling you about come from one of our track volunteers who's a genius, who's worked with the BNSF for years. He's a really sweet guy. But he talks about, well, okay, so, some locations on the railroad see 50 trains a day, pretty busy, even traffic, but this is the only railroad in the world where the same piece of track sees 50 trains a day, over and over and over and over again in the same direction. And it's like...
Right, so just every other day, drive the other way, you know?
Yeah, so here's where that doesn't work. So we have train cars that are from like 1881, and they're old, and they didn't get reinforced by the railroad, so you can't have them as the lead car in the train. So if you want to run the other direction the next day, you have to spin the train, rebuild the train so it's facing the right way, and that's a lot of work. And
all right, hear me out. Build one of those star pattern Ys, right? You know, the one that you've shown me before, the star pattern Y. Hold up. You gotta let me get ahead of you on the track.
Why?
Because logistics.
You can shove in through.
I don't want to shove in, though.
We'll cut the last 7 cars off, and then you can just shove in, and then you pull it back out. Then you don't have to run around the train, bro.
Oh, but that's so bad. Okay.
No, it's not. Cut the last 7 cars off, and then I'm gonna keep going.
I can't count.
Okay,
Guys, I don't want to do the low.
Get an engineering
1, 2, 3,
degree?
4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I think this is it. Okay. Bye. Have a beautiful time.
You want beams, yes, right? That's what we need?
Beams. Yeah, we need the
All
beams.
right, I promise to not derail while I'm away. Bye.
I doubt that. Good luck.
Puts it at 100, 100.
The question is, of course...
Oh, okay, that was...
Did you just derail?
Oh, God, yeah.
That
didn't take long.
It didn't even make it out of sight.
Didn't even make it out of sight. Just that's
already
it's gone
derailed
well.
it.
Man,
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. The inner machinations of these physics right now. I've got
it's the
4
physics.
cars in the dirt, and the engine. The engine is now facing the wrong direction.
Heiss is not allowed to drive trains anymore.
It's a good thing we don't drive trains; we run them.
That's true.
You know.
Yeah, great. Heiss is not allowed to do the thing. Speaking of binning it, I saw your BNSF railroad had a derail today.
My alma mater.
Your alma mater. I didn't see any of the details of it, but
yeah. So like, my dad emailed me with the link to the article on this one, and I was checking my email this morning.
And there was like a big. They were complaining about 6,000 gallons of diesel, and I was like,
yeah,
Heiss has it's probably like one engine worth of diesel, right?
I had like 30, or I had like 300 or 400 gallons of crankcase oil.
Right.
They had 2, like, from what it looked like the 2 Jeeps rolled over. And I want to say the Jeeps had like 26 or 2,700 gallon fuel tanks. So yeah, they actually dumped like 5,000 gallons of diesel fuel. And they were right on the Puget Sound up in Anacortes. So really unfortunate. We'll have to see what the investigation shows and everything, but the early report was that they derailed right before a bridge and then fell off to the side and ended up in the mud. And I mean, the pictures were pretty bad. It was one of my former turds, as I refer to all of my BNSF choo-choo children. The 2824, that was the lead engine that was on its side. Thankfully, no injuries from what I heard. But yeah, the locomotive rolled over and was like halfway buried in mud. And I guess the fuel tanks got popped open and fuel drained out, which is always a bad time because I mean it's right at the sound there and
fuel tanks on a diesel, are they like low on the diesel, right above they're like along the sides of the
below
underbody?
Center. Yeah.
And that's just for center of mass reasons, to keep it low or something, or
you know, there's not really another good place to put a bunch of stuff on the locomotive, but
right,
I mean that
because
also
all the
makes
top
sense.
is like the actual engine and stuff.
Right. But yeah, that was a nasty one, and it was funny to me. Like I did get a chuckle out of seeing it was the 2824, and it was like that's a decent engine.
It's like seeing your child in the news later on in life, and you're like, hey, I recognize that.
Yeah, I know you.
Yeah, I literally just saw the article because someone had linked it to me, and I saw BNSF, and I was like, I know somebody who worked at BNSF.
Yes, you do.
And then I was like, oh no.
It's funny. I called them my turns, but I mean, obviously I was just one of many supervisors at the shop, but you'd always see the same power at the shop really for us because we were like a zone shop, not a major system shop.
Right.
And so we took care of all the locomotives that worked out in the Northwest. And so when you've got intermediate locomotives and high horsepower locomotives as your 2 categories, the high horsepower stuff was just putting through, heading to the next big town. The intermediate stuff worked out of Seattle, Pasco, Wenatchee, Spokane, all of those different places across the Pacific Northwest. And they all came for their major service to us. So it was like, okay, maybe we only saw it once a year. But you saw the same collective group of locomotives all the time. So me being like stupid and remembering all these road numbers, like I remember almost every single engine, like, oh yeah, it was one of mine. So it was like, yeah, it's one of those.
The road number of an engine created at manufacturing never changes ever for the life of the engine.
Oh, good God. No, created by the railroad when they get it, and changes as they see fit. Most of my
really?
BNSF engines were renumbered.
You sell it, or you can even change it on your own. There's no like...
Yeah.
Is it like your car insurance, though? Like it's registered to that number, or is it like a license plate or anything? Or
yeah, so locomotives have what's called a blue card, which is their registration, basically.
So like when we make our Fast and the Furious locomotive movie, they're going to be...
It's the pink slip. It's the blue slip.
They're racing for blue cards.
Racing for the blue card, man. It's this big card that like tells all the details about the locomotive and its maintenance records and history and sign-offs, basically, to the FRA, stating that this locomotive did all these things and has recently been maintained, and they can check the registration and status of everything.
Yeah. So first scene, he'll show up and be like, $5,000 cash to enter this race. And be like, bro, blue card. I'm racing my blue card.
My blue card. There you go.
240 Montezuma or whatever. That's my...
Well, wrong era, but I mean, yeah, we could do that. That could be fun.
Yeah,
that could be fun.
I got it.
Yeah.
We're going to make this movie, man. It's going to be a huge hit. We'll sell it to Netflix.
So excited. It's going to be great.
It'll be great. I mean, you know what? The most recent Fast and Furious movie, like... I know it's bad, and this is what they're on to like number 10.
Brain cells after watching that. I watched it in theater. I
haven't watched any of them past like 3 because I feel like the series ended with the original trilogy.
With Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, and that was it. And after that, I was like, you know what?
What's GK stand for? Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I ended. But I know the new Fast and Furious is bad because my fiance, who knows like nothing about cars, doesn't care for cars. She came up to me the other day and was like, so the new Fast and Furious movie, apparently it's so bad they go to space. And like when my fiance is talking about a car movie, it's a bad movie, like that's
right. She
would never watch it or like otherwise unless there was, you know what I mean? Like it's just like that was the big red flag for me. It was like, oh no, even she knows that it's like wrong.
We're watching this to make fun of it, and that's it.
Yeah. So like for me, I always enjoyed the cars, but they've gotten so far from it that
They
apparently
went down the ridiculous scale of we need to make everything more ridiculous for more views
point
kind
being,
of thing. Yeah.
Train racing movie, not that ridiculous. I feel like we've got all the
plain amount of
here.
Ridiculous. Yeah, we got all the things.
Yeah, I still think you got to have. There's some plot lines we could have. For example, he's got the in the beginning of the first movie, the RX-7 has like the passenger seat that flips up to hide the NOS bottles, right?
Right.
So same thing. We'll just have one of the toolkits in the coal pile has like some secret special coal hidden in it, and that like no one knows until like halfway through.
The mysterious Back to the Future red log that makes it go 88 miles an hour.
Exactly,
yeah, that's a
right?
Thing.
Like there we go. So we can have that, right? Hidden in the engine. Someone's got an extra deep firebox that no one knows about. It's just like super secret. Or it's like bigger, what are they? They're like the bigger louvers, vanes. I don't know what they're called. The draft shutters.
The dampers?
The dampers. Is that what they're
none of my locomotives have those. Not all locomotives have them.
Well, we could yeah. And then someone else could have like a secret fan compressor that puts more forced draft into their locomotive, right?
All of the locomotives have those.
I know, but they have it at the stack, but have another one underneath to like big radiator fans that suck in more air, right?
See, we could do the ridiculous ones, or we could like do the modern steam inventions of like the guy, I don't remember his name. Something Porta. I can never remember his first name, but he just like did steam late in Argentina, I want to say, and came up with a lot of really unique and interesting developments. Like if steam stuck around that people would have used, but it's like you could meme on that stuff. Like, oh yeah, this baby, it's got self-rocking grates. Yeah, it's tied into the valve gear, makes the fire burn perfect. Like, wait, what? It has what? That was a thing someone tried? Like,
I
you
still
can have a lot of fun with
the
that.
whole grates thing, because you have like you have grates in the firebox, right?
Yeah,
On the
so
bottom
you have
of the
grates,
firebox.
You have, imagine your Weber kettle grill. You're gonna go make a hamburger out on your grill outside. Okay, I mean, I know I just said the most American thing in existence, but imagine that.
Weber grills. Yeah, no, okay, but
you have a grate that you cook food on, and then
right,
there's a grate
and
that
like,
the coal sits on. Yeah.
Well, you have the grilling surface itself, like the rail, like the metal grill that you cook the food on, and then below that there's like a catch, like kind of like a ridged catch thing with holes in it to catch like stuff that falls. Right,
and then you have an ash pan below that.
Right. And so your grates are on the ash pan below that. But how do you not, like, wouldn't the coal burn small enough, and then eventually once the coal's small enough, it would just fall through right onto the track?
The holes are really small, but they do eventually burn and fall through into the ash pan, but the ash pan's solid.
And the ash pan's like curved up, so it allows air to flow in over the top of it, and then underneath, and then pull in through.
Yeah, the sides are open, and then sometimes if it's equipped with dampers, then the dampers will allow more air in from the front or the back or whatever.
Right.
And then that's where you get all your stuff. And that's actually, the ash pan's not, I mean, it's partially modeled on this engine. You can see the bottom of the pan and the hopper, but...
So you'd have to still clean out the ash pan, but that's a manual job.
Oh, God, yeah. And that's actually the, that... Depending on the engine, it can be the worst job.
Right.
If it's... Some engines are super easy, like 346 and 20... Super easy.
So what happens if all your grates get plugged while you're driving? You'll just...
Oh, that's a nightmare.
You won't have draft
It doesn't
anymore.
tend to happen. It doesn't tend to happen because, I mean, it's really kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of the draft creates draft.
It's pulling it in. It's not pushing it out.
But yeah, I mean, you can have what's called a clinker buildup, which is basically when something wrong in the combustion of the coal, or maybe if someone went in there with the rake and stirred the coals too much and flipped them upside down, the ash turns into a kind of concrete, basically. And then you've got this giant bit of concrete that won't burn, and nothing that goes on top of it will burn, and you kind of have to bust it up with a big pokey stick. That's a nightmare. But yeah, dealing with any of that stuff's not too fun. But thankfully, if you got good quality coal and an experienced fireman, you don't tend to run into that problem.
I've got all these rails loaded, by the way. I don't know how you're at, but...
I am on the bridge coming above you pretty shortly here.
Oh, you're coming back now?
Yeah, did you hear me?
Yeah, you're on your way back, is what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah,
on the bridge? Yeah, okay. That's good. I thought maybe you derailed again and you were just leaving on the bridge, You know how boats have locks?
Right.
You go up and down cliffs.
Yeah, they pump water in and out and go up, down,
and the boat goes up and down?
Gates and stuff, yeah.
So, did anybody ever make, like, a train elevator?
For trains...
Is there any instance of like a train elevator where a train drives onto a track and then gets lifted up somewhere? Like not a whole train, but just individual cars or locomotives. Is there any reason?
In terms of like a mining operation or a mining railroad or some small industrial railroad, I'm certain that has to exist.
Like someone made a thing that just flat up lifts a car vertically up a mountain or whatever.
Right. In terms of something that's like a full-size train, or like a full-size locomotive or full-size train car or something, I'm kind of doubtful. There's probably one weird one-off one that someone's going to mention in the comments, which will be neat to learn about.
Yeah,
but,
don't get me wrong. I'm not like a total moron. I don't think anybody would ever lift like a whole, 8-car long train or anything. I was just thinking like, is there a place where you'd be like, hey, we need to get this one hopper car up to the top of the mine, so let's just lift it up an elevator, or like this lumber car up the mountain, like it's...
I'm sure that they had that in mining establishments. And,
like someone had to have thought it was more efficient than, some crazy grade or something, right? Like,
right. Yeah. I'm sure that existed in industrial applications. But beyond that, I don't know. So I'm curious to see what our experts in the comments may have, because half the time the stuff that comes out of the woodworks in the comments is like, well, that's really neat. So,
yeah.
It's fun.
Our smelter's now sadly empty. We have very little iron, very little cordwood.
Man. Oh, yeah, there's like hardly any loads left in there. Oh, goodness.
There's literally nothing left to pick up. And then on top of that, our iron mine is like not full either. So we need to supply the iron mine.
We got to start back over at logs and just go through the chain again, apparently.
Oh, no, the sawmill's like fine.
The sawmill's still going.
The sawmill's still got logs probably, even after you picked up all this stuff. Like it's a great industry. But yeah, the iron mine's gonna need some stuff. We're gonna need to bring iron down here and cordwood down here. And then, you know, but at least now our coal mine will be full, so we should have coal for days. Although apparently this, you know, this hopper coal tender is
the
full
tender
too.
is just
Yeah.
a ridiculous amount, apparently.
Yes.
I think they said it's 6,000, and if it's 6,000 kilograms, which QMA likes to program in metric, because he's German, and that makes sense. That does make a vague amount of sense for the size of engine, right?
I don't understand.
That's like
the American
13,000
opposition
pounds-ish
to the metric system. Okay, I really don't.
Last time I brought the metric system up in a video, it got me like
I
banned
don't
from
get
the
it.
United
Okay,
States,
you guys are all
so-
for doing things simpler, right? How many ounces are in a pound?
16.
Okay, right? And how many pounds are in a ton? 1,000, right, or some nonsense?
2,000.
Oh,
bro.
2,000.
Come on.
Okay, right. That's why you have an imperial ton and a metric ton, right? Whereas like ours are.
Yes.
So like it's like, you know how many grams are in a kilogram? 1,000. You know how many
Right.
kilograms are in a ton? 1,000. You know how
Right.
many, you know, milligrams are in a gram? 1,000. 1,000. You know, like
Yeah.
the units are just, they're easy. They multiply by 10.
Multiply by
Centimeters
10,
to a
yeah.
meter. You know, 100. Centimeters to a decimeter. 10. You know, millimeters to a centimeter. 10. But you guys are all like, you know what? I want 12 inches to a foot. And I don't even know.
5,280 feet to a mile. There
Yeah,
you go.
and then yeah, exactly. Like that makes sense. And then we're gonna use what? Then you're gonna have football yards. Like, what's a football yard? 3 feet? Is it
3 feet, yeah.
3 feet, right? So like, who comes up with this nonsense? You know?
I would love to know the true history of all of those things, and a lot of it doesn't make sense for easy math. I do understand that arguments like people were talking about temperature recently, and that was where it last.
I mean,
came up
I'm all
and
for Team
got
Kelvin.
me banned from
I'm
America,
sorry, Team
but
Kelvin for life. Like, let's be real.
the
273.5.
scientist.
Let's just, you know.
Colin, the scientist, is here. Yeah, people argued that the imperial stuff is how you feel versus metric is how water feels, and it's like,
What?
well, I
How?
guess
What does that mean? Like,
that's
it's 80
okay.
outside. I feel 80% okay. It's 100. I'm 100% burning to death. Like it.
well, that's like 100's pretty hot.
Yeah.
and 0's pretty cold.
You know what's
versus
nice about the
0
metric
is-
system,
is
though?
a
This is
little
me
cold and
advocating metric again, okay?
100's
Water freezes
dead.
at 0 and it boils at 100.
Yeah, but I don't care about water. I care about me because I'm
And you
selfish.
care about Coca-Cola and Mountain Dew.
Well, hey man, I have a Coke Zero addiction. Don't you call me out like that.
yeah, I care about the what is it, the big gulp at 7-Eleven. That's what I'm going for. You know what I mean?
He
It's-
wants the big gulps, man.
yeah, the big gulps.
All right, well, I'm gonna let you run.
Oh, that's
to
right. Yeah, you're
at
gonna do
least-
math. I forgot.
At least to the helper station, and I'm gonna do some maths here.
I don't understand it. All my American friends, man, always the same thing. They're always like, "Oh, Imperial is better," but I'm just like, guys, the metric stuff's just so much easier to understand. You know?
I prefer doing math in metric. I really do, because as soon as you start talking about units of mass, and it's like, what the hell is a slug?
Oh my god,
That's imperial
slugs.
maths.
And what is it?
And it's so
foot pounds.
stupid.
Foot pounds. Please
What
talk
the-
about
what's wrong with foot pounds?
Foot pounds is terrible.
What's wrong with foot pounds? It's torque,
Newton
baby.
meters is so much better, dude. I don't know what you're.
Well, what? How much is a Newton?
A
A Newton
it's
is an apple bonking you on the head. That's very helpful.
no. Well, it's 1 kilogram of mass dropping from 1 meter, isn't it? That's a Newton.
I'm pretty sure that's right. Like
Yeah.
1 kilogram meters per second squared, right? That's a Newton.
Yeah,
so,
1 kilogram
yeah.
meter per second squared. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but pounds, because I can measure beef in pounds. I don't measure beef in
You don't
newtons.
measure beef.
How many newtons of beef do I have? How
We don't
how
ask
American
for
was that
newtons of
sentence
beef.
just then?
You're asking for kilos of beef.
Well, but that's not weight, Con.
Actually, when
okay?
I buy meat in Canada, it's priced per 100 grams. Is how they price it.
Oh, interesting.
Which is
That's-
so that's kind
That's bizarre.
how's that bizarre? You buy it per 100
That's
grams.
that's not what I'm used to. Therefore, it's weird, Con.
Right, yeah,
Don't you
no.
get how this works?
I feel like
man, I don't
me
know.
and 90% of the rest of the world agree that the metric system is better, and then there's the 10%
Well,
that's all
cheeseburgers for freedom, bro. Get out.
pro-imperial. I always hated it at university because in university they would just interchange them freely, right? and you had to have all these conversion tables, and it was just,
right.
just
I
stupid.
mean, same
like,
for us. They taught us the same thing in engineering.
It's like, here's an
over here.
extra step for no reason, just because, right? It's like, okay, so what's Fahrenheit for water? It freezes at 34, right?
32, bro.
Oh,
Come
32?
on.
Okay,
Have you ever
what is it?
American
So
before?
it's like, what, 9 over 5 plus 32 is the math? Or 5 over 9?
Correct. Yeah, 5 over 9 or 9 over
Yeah,
5 plus
like,
32. Yeah.
guys, we love fractions. Let's be American. Woo. 25.4 millimeters per an inch, by the way. I remember that
Well,
forever.
25.4. Dude, so when I did the boiler survey on the 491, our UT tester, ultrasonic thickness tester,
Is it
measured in millimeters. So I had to divide by 25.4.
Yeah.
And it was just the worst.
Although it's funny, I build a lot of, like, I've been building a lot of my RC track stuff, and
Right.
I do all that in inches and fractions of an inch.
Well, look at you talking smack about our freedoms over here.
It's only because my tape measure only has inches for some reason. I bought a tape measure in Canada, only inches.
How did you buy a tape measure that's only imperial
I don't know.
in Canada?
It doesn't have metric units
Bruh.
on it at all. It's just imperial. So I don't know how that happened, but
That is kind of hilarious.
yeah, it's just the way it
Oh,
is.
Colin, this train's not buffing out. This train is so not buffing out. I'm telling you right now.
What do you mean?
This getting up to 10% with this.
Oh, what's the math? Yeah, how are we?
Okay, so we're gonna have 345,000 pounds,
Okay.
and together we have 140,000 pounds up to 10% with the 280 and the Climax.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because the 280, I mean, the tender engines are really bad on the 10%, and I'm assuming that the tender weight on this engine is the same as the Class 70, and it's actually probably heavier.
Well, we'll take a run at
So-
it, and then if we don't make it, we'll tie some cars, and
Yeah, the nice thing is that we will probably make it up to 6.5%. Actually, no, we're going to be right at 300,000, so the 6.5, we might not even make it up to 6.5.
I'll try it.
So
There's a
we'll
flat
try
spot
it.
in the middle of the
might.
6.5,
There's
right?
a flat spot, and if we hit it with speed.
Yeah.
Speed and power, we might actually do quite well. I really do. For me, like, I am so used to how our measurements work, and like an inch makes so much, like I know what an inch looks like. I know what all of the American standard hardware,
Of course,
like
you know
I can
what an
call.
inch looks like. God.
Well, wow. Anyways, there's a lot of inch hardware.
I think
on
your
the trains,
pilot is
so it's,
inside my wood, by the way, just to FYI. This would not,
oh God!
this would not work
what in
well.
the name of coupling is going on right there?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we are having some pilot docking at the moment. That's
Yeah,
fine.
this is interesting.
It's fine. It's yeah, it's great.
Also,
yeah,
if I'm going in reverse,
yeah.
would my sand even work, or would it come out the wrong side?
I don't know if the Climax has reverse sanders or not. And actually, the Climax, the sanders are shown as dropping on top of the drivers, so they don't really like do anything anyways.
Right.
Because reasons. So I mean, there maybe. I mean, if it's dropping on the drivers, they would do something technically, but yeah, a lot of engines don't really actually have backup sand.
We don't really seem like we're gaining any speed.
This engine, the Tweetsie 280 has backup sand. Has two sand lines on the one, the
And then
number
what,
one.
they have a
driver?
valve to switch between them?
That's weird. It's actually only got the manual sand lever, but like normally the
Wow,
valve
we did
will
not make
switch.
it very far at all.
Were you applying any tractive effort? Like we immediately
100%,
died.
bro. 100%.
Okay.
Well, that
didn't
was a riveting adventure.
okay. So, you know, we could break the train up, or we could go get the Class 48 and shove.
Is the Class 40 going to be enough?
Class 48 would add another 51,000 pounds on the 10%, and another 94,000 pounds on the 6.5. It's actually almost as good as the Tweetsie engine on the 6.5%. I hear legend that you're over there with the Class 48. I can't see you.
I have half boiler pressure, but we'll get there.
It's fine. Actually, come to think of it, I've actually run out of fuel. So let me shovel some more in. You know, they did say in the update that the coal was going to last longer than the wood, but the coal actually seems to burn faster. There's just more of it in the tender.
I think, yeah, last longer is just the sheer quantity of tender.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen the
Yeah.
tender go down at all.
Yeah, because, yeah, it's a whole thing, but it's fine.
All right.
Anyway, so let's do the thing.
Class 48's on 100%. I can actually just walk up with leaving that at 100%.
Yeah, I've got
I'll never get
that
spicy
going a
speed.
hundo.
It's also not
And-
even. It's not even pinned in. It's just pushing.
Oh,
But
is the climax just slipping to death? Is that what's going on?
probably.
there?
I'm coming up. Climax kind of requires a little bit more micromanagement to
Yeah,
run.
that's. I jumped into the climax so that I could run it for sure.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And it's
that-
hard to tell if is it. I guess it just spins that fast, but it's still putting down tractive effort. Right? So I got sand on, and I'm gonna give it 95% reg. That
Oh,
sounds
bells,
fine.
bells. Enable your
Bells. Yeah.
bells. Get the bells going. I didn't put the class 48's bell on, but
It's fine. Does it have boiler pressure back there? I still don't
yeah,
see
160. Class 48 at the very back. I think it does. I just think we're too
What?
heavy. You know what
Why
I think
does
this
this math
this
not
calls
work?
for?
What?
We have options here, Heist. This is the debate now, right?
Right.
This is real railroad scheduling, okay? So, we are here. We need to go over that. Obviously, this is not going to work, right? Unless we
Right.
double this and possibly triple the 10. So,
Right.
is it
right.
faster to do all that with all that cutting? Or is it faster to just push back?
Give up and go all the way
go all
around the other way?
around?
I gotta say, Con, I'm not a huge fan of that idea.
I'm not a huge fan of going around either, but I feel like with some magical editing cuts, we could just be on the switchback, like, you know, now.
You just like your switchbacks.
I really just don't like cutting the train. It's really what that comes down to.
Fine. Okay. See you on the other side, people.
Easy, man. Easy edits. I don't know what you're talking about. Look, I'm gonna snap my fingers. We're gonna be on the switchback. Look at that. That was so fast.
Look at that. Boom.
That was so fast.
Whoa.
Wow.
We definitely did not. Yeah, no, we're here. Look, it was instantaneous.
That was great, actually. I got to eat my dinner while that was happening, while we were driving here.
Just enjoying the railroad, enjoying the scenery.
Yeah, that's
Did
like
you see any pine trees on the way?
pine trees?
Pine trees, yeah. Like what in the scenery that you were looking at while you were eating your dinner?
Oh
on the
no,
way?
these are all cedars, aren't they? They look kind of like.
Cedars are pine trees, bro.
Cedars are considered a
Aren't,
pine?
aren't
really?
they? Aren't they? I don't know actually. I'm not
I know
a
they're
very
like
good tree person.
they're an evergreen or what is it? Carnivorous.
They are a coniferous tree, an evergreen
Carnivorous,
tree.
coniferous.
Yeah, but isn't a cedar? I don't know. I'm here. This is a belief I've held since I was a child, and I'm about to get it rocked by somebody in the comments. I'm sure. So,
What? That cedars are pine trees?
Yeah.
I don't know. These look like
know.
cedars, though, don't they? They don't look as. Maybe
They
they're
look
pines.
like- they could be a fir tree.
What would happen on the railroad if you had to go for like 8 hours and you had an 8-hour trip? You just you gotta obviously go to the bathroom off the train and then just.
Right. Well, I mean, or off the side, but
That's what I mean, like off the side, and then bring a pail lunch, like.
Yeah, bring a lunch, and a lot of times, I mean, depending on the service, you would stop and eat at a town along the way, at a division point or something.
So
There's
me
a lot of
eating stir fry while you were driving train is not unrealistic. I just have someone
not
cook up some
unrealistic.
stir
I mean,
fry and hand it to me in the cab, and
right. There's actually videos of dudes in modern trains in like diesels and stuff pulling up and stopping at a grade crossing at a Wendy's and getting like fast food handed up to them, and then they take off again.
you
And
serious?
it's just like, yeah, there's definitely a video of that existing. It's like, you're stuck at the crossing. Why is the train stop? Oh, engineering wants a
guy
burger.
wants Wendy's.
So hey, I mean, I get it, man. I'm there.
Could you order, like, imagine ordering delivery to a train? Just be like, hi,
Yeah.
I'm going to be rolling into your town in the next 20 minutes. Can you please, have a pizza ready? And we'll just pick that up.
That's a vibe, man.
I feel like someone's
And
done that at some point.
I'm certain that they have, and at the end of the day, the way to a railroader's heart is through their stomach. Like,
Right.
Railroaders love food, dude. Like,
To just,
that was the instant way to get the guys on shop shifts to like me and respect me, was buy them pizza out of my own pocket.
I guess they just use cell phones, right? And, like, if they're in a super remote area, they'd use a satellite phone or something? Like, is that...
I suppose. I mean,
even bother with that?
The locomotives have radios and they talk via radio.
Is it AM radio? Like,
It's its own band of radio. Like, there's a whole
I see.
chapter of the FCC stuff that is railroad radio, and it's its own frequency band and stuff, and they're very specific.
Interesting.
But they have some pretty ridiculous lengths, and the bass units on the locomotives are pretty powerful because
do they talk like
they have to
truckers
talk
do
pretty
on
far.
the radios? Like, you know, this is Big Papa rolling in through the grade crossing. Hey, Big Papa, this is Little Ducky.
We're gonna drop her off at the choke and puke. Yeah. No, they don't. They really don't. There's more rules against it being, you know, more closely monitored by things, and like to the point of even our radios. I don't think they're actually on the railroad bands, but they're monitored by the FCC, and like swearing over the radio is not kosher, not cool. Like,
oh, interesting.
To the point of somebody sweared over the radio, and like everyone was like, "What did you just do? You can't do that. You can't swear on the radio."
All right, we're good.
All right, backing up. I gotta.
Have I ever told you how much I love switchbacks?
A couple times. I think you're crazy, and you know, we would have had the train unloaded by now had we just doubled and tripled the hill.
So,
but
you know, I know how everyone tells us to get like a Betsy and then a Betsy like the Porter 2 and make them into a Fairly, right? And put it back to back. Is there?
They want to watch me cry. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there an actual locomotive that has 2 separate boilers with 2 separate fireboxes running running 2 separate drive gear, but it's all attached together? That's not just linked.
That's pretty much what the Fairly is.
It's actually
Fairly.
like 2 fireboxes, 2 boilers, 2
So
regulators.
so the Fairly is 1 boiler, 2 fireboxes, 2 engines, 2 regulators. So the fireboxes are distinct, but they share a boiler, because when you're working one end versus the other, you don't want to draft cold air through the fire you're not tending. So the fireboxes are separate, but the boiler's the same. There are some engines that were designed to be nested pairs, though, where it's like a hinge pin, 2 sets of engines. Like there were some French engines in World War I that were actually trench railroad locomotives. If you didn't know, there were trench railways that had steam engines that served in World War I, and that is a whole deep dive of crazy
dug a trench
stuff.
wide enough for a whole train, and they had
they were usually like 2-foot or 30-inch gauge. They were small trains, but they were trains, so even smaller than these.
And the trench would be deep enough where you wouldn't see the train like chugging by.
I assume so. I don't know. Like that was the logistics, though, to supply a lot of the front lines or close to the base camps, close to the front line, I would assume. And they had all sorts of cute, weird, wacky locomotives, and the French had like a pair of 060s that were hinged together that had nested cab roofs, where one cab roof was taller than the other, so it would go cab roof over cab roof, but then they could split them apart and use them as one individually if they needed to.
Where do you put the fuel, though, for that? Because like you don't have
it's in the cab like it's Betsy. Or out
like
on
either side of the cab or whatever. Yeah. All right.
Also,
this is an interesting thought. Multiple tracks side by side running parallel pulling one train. Other than the German's giant holy monster cannon.
I'm surprised he knows of Schwer, Gustav.
I know of the giant German rail cannon that had the 2 parallel lines. They ran the parallel lines up the northern coast of Europe. And they had multiple.
If you want to shoot half-meter projectile, that's
we want across like any distance. But anyway, so other than that,
if you want to shoot the moon, yeah, pretty much.
Other than that, is there any other instances of that? Do you know of 2 parallel tracks pulling one engine, like pulling?
None that I know of. There were some pretty wide gauges back in the day that like would be considered like that, like Brunel gauge that was like 7 foot or something, and then somebody tried. I might have been the Germans again. Tried like a 9-foot gauge and stuff. So like,
of course, it was the Germans. Why wouldn't it be the Germans?
There's stuff like that vaguely scratches that itch, but I don't know if there was any like real legit. We got 2 engines on 2 different tracks pulling one train kind of thing.
Such a crazy thing if to think about. In World War II, they're like, what if we put a giant cannon on 2 parallel rails and just train it along the front lines?
Sometimes you're playing Factorio and you need to shell the bugs, man.
Yeah, sometimes apparently.
The artillery train.
It's nuts. Like it's the logistics of that. It's just insane.
It's an impressive piece of machinery. I don't really know. Like I don't know the history of it. I don't know if they actually used it.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've just seen all the pictures of it and been like, wow, you guys are nuts. Like this is just. I also have questions about when it aims and fires. I'm sure there's people in the comments who know, but like you would think that if it's rotated like it would only be able to aim down the tracks, right?
Derails itself
Like, wouldn't
otherwise.
it, yeah, if
the
you
recoil's
aimed it
gotta
sideways,
be
it would just
immense.
derail the thing with the recoil. I don't know. I feel like they must have only aimed it in the direction of track, plus or minus like maybe 15, 20 degrees, right? Like that would be my guess.
Yeah. What if you laid your track wrong? Dang it!
Relay the track. It would be easier to relay the track than tip the thing up from being in the dirt, right?
Well, yeah,
Lay some temporary track, swivel the thing over on your temporary track, fire it, remove your temporary track. I mean, that seems like a lot of work, but they also built a giant freaking moon cannon, so...
Well, you know, it's fine.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. If we makes the train go on 2 tracks, we put a giant gun on it, yeah.
The engineers of that design meeting were like, okay, hear me out, right? We need a really big gun. Okay, sure. We'll put it on our 9-foot gauge. And then there's like, it's that meme of that one guy in the back corner of the room that just looks all like, you know, freaking out. And he's like, what if we put it on 2 tracks?
Then they throw him out the window.
Then they throw him out the window.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, man, I'm just realizing that we're basically getting another grand circle tour of our railroad again.
Yeah, pretty
Although,
much.
we spacebar, tab, control entered most of it for you folks. Because,
the good thing is continuity,
you know,
though. Like, continuity-wise, you know, we're right back where we started. The whole point of this was to bring the empties away from the coal mine, but now
we've brought them back again, and then we'll still have to bring the empties somewhere again.
Yeah.
That's fine. We'll figure it out. We'll build a coal tipple back at spawn, or not spawn, but at the hump yard, and then go bring coal to it. And that'll be
exactly.
great.
But we'll have to bring the hoppers up for that.
Right. So I guess we'll have to run.
We'll have to bring this back
deadhead
to the
these.
hump yard.
We'll just run, the deadhead train of no cargo, and bring that back down, and then swap over to the hoppers and head back up.
We could honestly just bring the hoppers up and then bring all this down at one. I mean, the empties.
Okay. If we want to have a big spicy train. Oh, yeah, I guess we could use another locomotive and just leave the Tweetsie up here.
Yeah.
Save us a trip.
Well, we need another pusher back up here anyway because we brought the climax back to the helper station. And
that is true.
The 48's at the smelter.
We need more engines.
We need another engine up here. So we should put a pusher up here anyway. I don't know what pusher to use. We don't really have much for it.
We spent all of our money on this big choo-choo. I mean, I like
Actually, I have $1,300 now, so we're getting there.
Well, that does not a locomotive make, Con.
Well, it almost makes a shake, right?
That's not a locomotive. That is sadness.
That's a garage experiment gone wrong. The 10 mile is
Mason Bogey. That's an interesting thing.
It's got a lot of tractive effort considering.
They're really neat. They're a really neat design, and they were quite successful locomotives. The railroads really liked them. There's actually a ton of letters from like the South Park Railroad and everyone who ran them saying that they were some of the finest locomotives they ever had, which was kind of interesting because Mason Machine Works that made the Mason Bogies actually was not really a locomotive builder.
All right, you got 2 more cars to go.
Okay.
Oh, 3 more. My bad, I couldn't see that one.
3 cars, 2 cars, 3
3
cars, quarter mile.
Quarter mile?
Quarter mile.
47,382 inches.
Yep, there you go. I've told you the story about quarter mile, right?
What? Did you...
Oh, that...
You raced a train a quarter mile?
No, so the first time I got to run on a real railroad, I got to run at the Cumbrason Toltec with our engine number 20. And I was so, like, concerned and, like, a little anxious. I wanted to make sure I was a good engineer, really smooth. Like, this is my first shot. Don't screw it up. Impress the people rather than be bad.
Wait
stop there.
The mine consumes some stuff.
Okay, and then we'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I climb in the engineer's seat, and we were going to move the train up, let the photographers off so they could get a photo run by on this charter that we were running. And I got told, like, okay, it's going to be like train length. Okay. And I start getting car count to the stop. And it's like 4 cars. Okay. 3 cars, 2 cars. And I got a bunch of air set up, slowly, gently, nicely working the train to a stop. And it goes 3 cars, 2 cars, 1 car, half car, quarter mile. At the last second, the photographer who was like picking locations saw a place he liked better up ahead, told the conductor, like, no, let's go up there. And so the conductor just went quarter mile. And it was just like, I had been so happy. I was like, I'm stretching the train. So then I put
it
in
notch 8 and derailed him.
Dude, I kicked the air off and grabbed the throttle. I was like, we got a quarter mile to go, baby.
Yeah. All right, you
funny.
can back up. You're empty here.
That was a dream. That was a dream come true. Really getting out there and
Good news.
actually going
I'm
to
up
do the
to
thing.
$3,400. The rails.
Rails? They make some monies, man.
Rails are worth something. We also have 290 coal. This is great.
We've fixed our coal problem. Got it.
we're not gonna have a coal problem anymore, which is nice.
Which
It's
is
kind of
good,
one of those
'cause,
things where
yeah.
I don't want to deplete the coal ever. Like, even if we're supplying the ironworks, we always want to have some left coal left over here in case we need to fuel an engine, right? Like, that's gonna
Right.
be...
Sometime before the heat death of the universe.
Yeah. So we're always going to want to have a minimum amount of coal. Just to keep that fresh. It's good, though. This is good. We can actually, we could buy another coal engine next episode and have a coal engine be the helper at the coal mine.
But then the 21's not the Kenosha, bro.
Oh, that's right. Our next one's the 21.
I mean, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that, but it would be fun.
Right. But then you wanted to buy another road engine. You wanted the Class 70 to be the 21.
Right. That would be like the most funny meme, but like we don't have to do that.
Right.
If we did buy a big 280. It's like we could do something else.
But,
it could still be named the Kenosha and still be funny.
We could
but...
skip a number, okay, and go to...
Oh, and then come back.
And then go to what would be the 34.
The 34.
Hold on. So I have $3,600. So we could go straight to the 34. And if we went to the 34, we could buy for $3,400. We could buy a dollars. That was weird. Anyway, we could buy a 10 mile. The 10 mile is $3,400.
The bogey. I'm for that. The bogey's cool.
It's 8,400 pounds of tractive effort. It's compared to the Class 48 is 9,300 pounds. So it wouldn't be the greatest pusher to help us at the coal mine, but it would be something.
It's cool. It's pretty. It's neat.
Yeah. Also, there's the Ruby Basin. Oh god, it's only 4,600 for the Ruby Basin.
That's probably got more power.
A lot more, 13,000.
Oh really?
Yeah. The Heisler in comparison has the Heisler has less than the Ruby Basin. Wow.
Really? Okay.
Ruby Basin's 13.5. The Heisler is 13 flat.
Oh wow, so the Ruby Basin's that's actually a pretty solid choo-choo.
Okay, we need to make a little bit more money.
It's got some paint schemes from around the world from similar locomotives, which is
oh my god, the
choice.
lime green. What is this? Is this Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends? What?
It's apparently an Australian scheme. I mean, it's not accurate to the real Ruby Basin, but like, okay, maybe it.
We're
appeal. I guess
that's the color we're going with. I'm sorry.
Okay, Con. Cool.
There's not a lot of things I push for, but we're getting that color.
We're getting the lime green choo choo because we want to watch me die inside.
It can live with dude.
I
It looks
tried
like it's
so
out of a
hard.
cartoon.
I tried so hard to not be mad at all last episode after my original live stream.
Dude, it looks sick. It's got black
frustrated.
rims. It's got like lime green, white detailing. The red. It literally looks like it belongs in a cartoon. This is amazing.
As long as we name it Percy and I die on the inside.
That's fine. We
Okay?
can name it Percy.
Cool.
It could be number 30.
Vote now on your phone.
What number is Percy actually, though?
I'm scratching the inside of my brain for long
Percy.
lost
Here
brain
we go.
cells.
Let me look up the
Is it number 6?
It's number 6. Well,
hey, I remember it. That's a brain cell from
dude. This looks
20 some plus years ago.
It'll be number 34. We don't have a choice. We have to keep with the.
As long as we put a Congdon stack on it to just be as cursed as possible.
What stack is that?
The big honkin' chonkin' stack. The mega chonker and then a big box headlight with antlers and with the same antlers on both ends.
Why do they have antlers?
I mean that's actually a thing that they did, but
yes, this is what we're buying. We need $4,700 is what we need.
I'm not sure why the antlers. I'm
Yeah.
not sure why the antlers are throwing up the Wu-Tang Clan symbol, but
that's what we're buying. We're gonna get that engine next episode.
Okay, so next episode, Heist dies. Look forward to Tuesday, everybody.
It's gonna be great. I'll grind out some money just doing some basic logs or something, and I just need $1,000, and then we'll buy that. We'll bring some stuff up to the coal mine here, get some coal, deliver it, do some coal stuff. I don't know. Whoa! Anyway. Like, subscribe, we'll see you all next time. Are you dead already? Did you already die? It seems like you already died.
Viewers on mine will see what I've written on the side of the locomotive, and And yeah, those are opinions.
Dude, that's what we're
Thanks
going
for
with.
watching, everybody.
We go with it. See you next time.
Oh, God.